How do I build a strong, reliable team? I watched a plumbing business owner go from losing his third employee in 6 months to building a team so strong that customers started asking for specific technicians by name. Companies that defined their ideal customers before hiring saw employee retention jump from 40% turnover to under 15% within months. The difference wasn't better pay or even fancy benefits. It was something most home service business owners completely miss when they're desperate to fill positions. I'm Chris Moore. This is the Home Service Revolution. If you're tired of the hiring, training, losing cycle that's costing thousands in recruitment and especially that lost productivity, this case study is going to show you exactly how to flip that script. This is based on my 4,000 plus conversations with home service owners. Thriving businesses don't just hire warm bodies to fill roles. They hire people who connect with their customers. But most owners, they approach hiring completely backwards. Look, research shows 80% of your service quality comes from just 20% of your team. Most owners hire backwards. They post a job on Indeed and pray someone decent applies and wonder why their team feels mismatched. But here's what that plumbing owner I previously talked about, here's what he discovered first. He stopped hiring and started with a question that changed everything. Who are my best customers? He grabbed a notebook and he mapped out his ideal customer profile. These were homeowners who prioritized reliability and clear communication over the lowest bid. They paid invoices within 2 weeks instead of dragging it out for months. They called him back for additional projects and referred their neighbors. But when he looked at his team, something didn't add up. His best customers were detail-oriented professionals. They expected clear communication about arrival times, project timelines, and cost. They wanted follow-through when he promised to send an estimate by Friday. They appreciated when his technicians explained what they found and why certain repairs were necessary. Studies indicate customers are 30% more likely to trust somebody who transparently explains the cost and the timelines. But his hiring focused only on technical skills. Can they sweat a pipe joint? Do you know residential codes? Have you installed water heaters before? He never asked about their communication styles, whether they were attentive to details. He ignored some of those personality traits that would determine how well someone connected with his ideal customer. So he started analyzing what his best customers actually valued. They wanted technicians that showed up on time and called if running late. So he implemented a reminder system, texting. Hey, 30 minutes prior, they sent a text, and then calling if more than 15 minutes late. They appreciated clean work areas and clear explanations. They got frustrated when promises weren't kept or when they felt like they were being rushed through decisions. Most importantly, his customers valued feeling heard and respected, especially when they were in their own homes. This customer analysis became his hiring filter. Instead of asking generic questions at the interview, every question tied back to serving one of his specific types of clients. He asked candidates about how they handle a customer who wanted to understand every step of a repair. He presented scenarios about running late to appointments, discovering additional problems during a job, and he looked for people who naturally communicated clearly and took pride in detailed work. This shift was dramatic. His new hires started connecting with customers in ways that his previous team never had. Customers, they started to mention specific technicians in their reviews. I really love Bob. Sarah was so helpful. Service calls turned into larger projects because his customers trusted the recommendations. His ideal customers started requesting the same technician to come out on return visits. This insight led him to completely rethink not just who he hired, but the order in which he built his team. If you know the right person to hire, it's only half the battle. Here's where most owners make their $1 million mistake. They hire whoever they need most urgently. The phones are ringing, customers are waiting, so they grab the first decent tech they think they can find who applies. But this owner learned the hard way that there's a specific order that actually works. The strategic hiring sequence sounds backwards at first. Operations manager is where you start, then technicians, then marketing assistants. I know a lot of people in the industry teach something totally different, but studies show adding an operations manager first boosts technician productivity by over 25%. Most owners think this is crazy. Look, I personally talked and worked with some of the biggest owners, developers in the industry. They will look at this differently, but then they also wonder why their beginning locations struggle. When you're drowning in service calls, hiring an operations manager instead of another technician feels like you're watching your business burn while you organize fire extinguishers. But hiring an operations manager becomes the foundation of success. So for the owner before this hire, he was the operations manager, scheduled jobs, answered phones, ordered parts, followed up with customers, tried to run service calls. Every new technician that he added was just more chaos for him to manage, more schedules to coordinate, more customer communications, more administrative tasks. You hire that marketing person before you really have ops ready. You're also having to manage that operations person and your marketing individuals. The operations manager was there to help create systems that made that future hire more effective. This person that he hired, she established clear onboarding processes. So new technicians knew exactly what was expected from day one because she could spend time with them while the owner was running around putting out fires. She created training protocols, one-page SOP checklist for every type of job that they did. And this is always proven to reduce your errors. Industry average, 40%. She handled scheduling, parts ordering, customer follow-up, maximized efficiency, started to reduce those drive times between jobs. She oversaw administrative processes like invoicing and purchasing. So now, as he hired technicians, they stepped into an organized system. They knew their schedule, usually 2 days in advance. They had proper information before arriving at the customer's location. They had the right tools. They had the right equipment. They had the right parts. And they had administrative support when they did need to order parts, and then also to help with that customer follow-up. They got constant and consistent training feedback. These technicians, they performed better and stayed longer because they could focus on what they did best instead of trying to fight with a broken system, trying to figure out where the owner was and why he wouldn't answer the phone. The marketing assistant came last, and this timing was crucial. Once systems were in place, he saw customer acquisition costs start to drop. In this business, it was 43%. Customer acquisition dropped by 43% by having a dedicated marketing resource. She could confidently promote services knowing customers would receive reliable, professional experiences. She could gather those customer testimonials because the team was actually delivering that exceptional service that she needed the testimonials for. This sequence prevented that expensive cycle, hiring, training, losing people. Instead of flowing new hires into this chaos and hoping that they survived it, did things right, came out the other side, each role was built with a strong foundation, a foundation for what they could do next. This sequence of hiring determines success more than individual talent. Look, a talented technician coming into a chaotic system is still going to struggle, and eventually they're going to leave because everything around them is not built to support their excellence. An average technician in a well-organized system is going to thrive and improve. But even the perfect sequence won't work without one invisible factor, and this is one of the most difficult things for us to do, and it determines whether people are actually going to want to stay. And that's our culture. This invisible factor of culture. 6 months later, something incredible happened. Customers started requesting those specific technicians by name. But the real secret wasn't what you'd expect. It wasn't because of training. It wasn't because of higher pay. It was the culture that became this magnetic force, attracting and keeping the right people. Look, if people are turning over every 3 months, they can't call in that technician from 6 months ago. They can't request it. And when they do and find out they're gone, they wonder what's going on with your business. So this is less about perks and more about a game plan that sets clear service behaviors. Culture isn't about this fun stuff going on in the office. It's about shared standards. It's about accountability. It's about everyone agreeing on how work gets done and what customers deserve. Owners who define non-negotiable standards see their turnover reduced, some of them by up to 70%. So he defined 3 core principles that aligned with serving those ideal clients that he defined. Every technician had to call a customer for running more than 15 minutes late. They had to clean up their work area before leaving. They cleaned up their work area at the home. They made sure their truck was clean. They had to follow up within 24 hours if they promised to send additional information. These were not suggestions. They were absolute requirements. The owner integrated these behaviors into his daily huddles that he had in the morning, the afternoons, used simple scorecards to track to make sure that technicians were meeting their requirements, that they were compliant. These cultural standards became part of every interview and every performance review. He asked candidates about how they'd handle calling a customer about being late when they were already stressed about a difficult repair. He wanted to see their reaction when he explained the follow-up requirements. He watched for people who saw these standards as a professional expectation rather than something that was annoying. Something fascinating started happening. Team members began self-selecting. Look, people who don't want to follow these type of standards, they're going to leave quickly. If you do this in the interview process, you're going to see how they react, especially if you ask them to role play that phone call and see how well they're able to do it, especially if they've been in the industry for several years. If it's not something they've ever done, may not be open to doing it in the future. If they complained about too many rules or said the job was too demanding, this filter just naturally aligned the team with the company's mission and with their culture. The specific elements began to resonate with those quality-focused employees. And this was simple event, but it was very powerful. And this accountability meant everyone took ownership of their work and ownership of their customers. Communication meant keeping customers informed at every single step. And this natural follow-through meant doing what you said you would do when you said you would do it. Pride meant leaving every job better than you found it. This culture started attracting referrals from existing team members. His best employees knew other professionals who shared these same values. They wanted to come to work. They recommended friends, former coworkers who would fit in this culture, help them lift all boats. Ultimately, he even stopped posting job ads because quality candidates were coming through for referrals from people who already understood what working there meant. Their beautiful, clean trucks, their job sites, their reputation. People were walking in the doors begging to work there. Culture became his ultimate retention and attraction tool. It naturally attracted those people who also wanted to serve his customers and repelled those who did not fit. The wrong people just ended up eliminating themselves. Instead of managing this revolving door of employees, he was leading a team of professionals who genuinely cared about customer service. And the results for that business, they speak for themselves even today. That plumbing owner went from 3 employees quitting in 6 months to having a waiting list of people who wanted to work for him. Schools who wanted him to come and talk to their trade classes. It all started with one simple shift in thinking. The difference between businesses that struggle with turnover and those that build strong teams is not about pay or benefits. It starts with making every hiring decision related to the customers that you want to serve. When you know your ideal customer, you know exactly what type of person they want to work with. And that will help drive what you need to pay, what those benefits are. And when you get the right people doing the right work, your profitability, your margins, your rework all goes in the right direction. 80% of your success comes for 20% of the right hires. So shouldn't we try and get more of that 20%? Start with your ideal customer in mind. Define your ideal customer. Use it to build your next role. If you answer that, you'll never hire the wrong person again. This is Chris Moore. Welcome to the Home Services Revolution.